Post-game edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. And Bill, the Final Four for the NBA Cup is set, and we did it. We jinxed the hell out of the Warriors. They finally lost to the Rockets.
Congratulations. Very little offense tonight, as we talked about over on CBS Sports HQ. You love the Magic. You love the Rockets. You love 80s basketball. We got it in spades. What the hell was happening?
You had me dying laughing because it was yet another brick fest that I did actually enjoy. Before we even get into the game, can I tell you, so you're wearing your HQ gear. I switched into my T-shirt gear for Beyond the Arc. Can I show you what I was wearing tonight for you? I tried to put a positive vibe.
Hit me.
Onto this for you because you wanted the Warriors, so that because you're writing something or you're going to write something about Stackhouse for CBS Sports, and you said in last night's show that you ended up jinxing it by saying that the Warriors were going to win this game. I had on a Warriors shirt for this game, and they lost. They haven't lost since 2020.
Well, I take some. So those of you that are listening are probably not sports writers, but we always just totally screw ourselves and jinx ourselves. I had 5 interviews today. Like, some of them are hard to get a hold of people. I actually didn't want to do them today, but the calls came in, and I transcribed all the tape. So as soon as of me and Jerry Stackhouse talking, so as soon as I needed the Warriors to win that badly, I knew it was Rockets all day long. Thank you, Steve Kerr, and everyone else.
I have not lost to the Rockets since 2020, 15 in a row. That ends tonight. Rockets end up winning this one 91-90. They're going to Vegas, Bill. Let's start with the end of the game. There was a little scrum at the end of the game. Jalen Green dives for the ball, and Steve Kerr loses his mind because they call a foul on the Warriors. Jalen Green goes to the line, hits 2 shots. That's the game. I thought it was a jump ball. I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't call it a jump ball. 2, that they called it a foul, and because the game was kind of chippy. And then that's the moment that they decided to send the Rockets to the line.
And it was bizarre because Steve Kerr had been lambasting the officials for several minutes, going back to a foul on Steph Curry where the Rockets instead turned the ball over. Steph misses the shot. I think it was pretty clear he got fouled. Rockets come down, hit a 3, and the momentum shifts, and they hadn't teed up Kerr. So it felt. My first thought was it felt almost punitive, right? They didn't tee Kerr up, but they were clearly put out. He was in their ear because I'm with you. I mean, John, I suppose you could criticize GP2 for not calling a timeout, maybe, but it felt like there's normal contact. If it becomes a foul later when he passes the ball, it's a foul. When whatever Rocket jumped on his back, it was a bizarre end of the game, and you hate to see the officials decide the game the way, because they did. They decided the basketball game.
It was a bizarre end to the game, and I'm with you. I thought it was a stupid decision by Gary Payton to roll the ball away. Right. However, the same exact thing kind of happened in that play, right, where one of the Rockets, I forget who it was, ended up landing on GP2, and they let it go. Everything's fine. And then he rolls the ball out, and it ends up with Jalen Green, and then a bunch of the Warriors claps on him, and all of a sudden that's a foul. So it's like, call it both ways, call it consistently. I don't blame Steve Kerr for being upset. He was upset when they missed a foul call on Steph Curry a little bit earlier in the fourth quarter. They didn't call that. He's certainly going to be upset about this. Producer Aaron, as you can see by the Chiron, if you're watching right now on YouTube, is very upset. He's a Warriors fan. He said he broke everything in his home, and the Rockets.
I'm impressed you showed up. I didn't think we were getting on the air.
I didn't think we were either.
Right.
Really bizarre game. I mean, Golden State did not shoot the ball well at all. Only 44% from the floor, 31.5% from 3. The thing that killed them, Bill, was the turnovers. 22 turnovers. They had 14 at the half, which was a season high. They had this thing, the Warriors do, where they'd love to just whip the ball around the floor. They're throwing passes to, the suite attendants, to people serving food in the front row. It's just I don't know what they're doing sometimes. And you would think with a team that's pretty experienced, at least their main guys and coached by a guy who's been doing it for a while, that would be the last thing that they'd be doing.
It's sort of baked into what they do. And they don't want, what was it? How many turnovers did they actually end up having over 22. The course of the Yeah, they're not aiming for 22 turnovers, but they do see turnovers as part of the way that they play, and normally they're going to hit a lot more of their three-point shots. They're going to be more efficient. They're probably going to get a few more calls. So I'm with you. The turnovers were poor, but so was the late-game execution, maybe some of the decisions Steve Kerr made down the stretch, and he had a couple Steph shots that didn't go in, and if you include the one where I think he clearly got fouled and it was an air ball, those were momentum shifters. And it's hard to beat any team 16 times in a row, but give the Rockets credit. Please, producer Aaron, don't throw anything else, because all the other things are true too. They pulled the Warriors down into the muck. You knew that the Houston wasn't going to have enough offense. They don't have enough offense. They never do against Golden State. It's probably part of the reason they've lost 15 in a row, and they don't, in general, shoot well. It just felt like this was very similar to the game that I was at a week ago when the Warriors beat the Rockets. There wasn't a lot of offense, and there was no Steph and no Draymond, but the Warriors still won. The fact that Golden State couldn't produce a few more points, that they were limited to fewer than 100, well fewer than 100, it was kind of a bizarro game on a bizarro night.
90 points for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Rockets, though, I mean, if you're the Warriors and you look at some of these numbers, right? I mean, the Rockets shot 45 and change from the floor. They shot 22% from three. You are frequently right about this. They do not have enough offense. Who was good tonight offensively? Alperen Şengün was good offensively. Jalen Green was hit or miss. He was good towards the end. He wasn't good early. Other than that, Jabari Smith got going early, but then kind of disappeared late. I mean, they really don't have any, and this was a bad Fred VanVleet night. He shot 3 for 13 from the floor. He's 2 for 9 from three. I kept going, especially in the second half, Bill, because like the Warriors came out, they were terrible in the first half, and then the second half they got going, and I was like, this is over. The Rockets aren't going to be able to keep up with the Warriors if the Warriors can make any shots, and they had limited their turnovers in the second half to start, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a serious problem for the Warriors. And then the Rockets, all of a sudden, they really got bailed out here. This should have been a Warriors game the way that it was trending in the second half. They got bailed out by the refs.
They got bailed out by the refs. They got bailed out by Golden State's offense. Just not. Look, I understand the dependence on Steph Curry, but the entire Warriors offense was, and give the Rockets credit, but it was bad the entirety of the night. And if you want to aspire to something, you got to be really good offensively and defensively. I'll say this about your guy Alperen. We're saying his name wrong. Did you see this with Ernie?
I did.
At halftime? Are we supposed to change
or something, right? Like
Sengun? Now I'm just going to be totally. But he also,
everybody says Şengün, but I guess we'll have to readjust.
Can I say Şengün? Well, whatever his name is, he also took some cheap shots from Trae, from Draymond Green, and sort of powered through it. And they weren't cheap shots in a way that were flagrant fouls. It was just, it's Green being a veteran and sort of living that line. There was a pretty big play where he pulled him to the ground and sort of, he didn't throw him, but he kind of turned. I mean, and that symbolized for me the toughness for this Rockets team, because you noted the only player who was efficient and impressive on offense was the guy that Green noticed was doing this and targeted him and went after him. He didn't lose his temper. He didn't buckle. He didn't start to overplay his hand or press. It wasn't a pretty game for the Rockets, but I don't think they can beat the Warriors playing a pretty game. This was in the muck, and credit to them. They got lucky with some officiating, but they also made it closer than it probably should have been.
This is how they had to snap a 15-game losing streak, right? I mean, you had to get lucky. You had to get some calls go your way. You had to get some calls that didn't go the other way towards the Warriors. Not surprisingly, Steve Kerr was very upset during the game. I am shocked he didn't get teed up. After the game, he called the loose ball foul unconscionable, and something an elementary school official wouldn't have called. Fine incoming for Steve Kerr. You got your money on that one.
50 grand?
I mean, calling 75? It unconscionable alone is going to get you fined. Saying it's an elementary school official wouldn't have called that. That I think that's going to be a big one.
What did he get the other day for saying whether learn to get glasses or whatever? I think he got fined $75,000 or $100,000. Yeah, it is going to be a whole lot. Can I say on a slightly positive note? And there are things to pick at here, but I was prepared to talk to you because I thought the Warriors were going to win. About how Jonathan Kuminga had these splashes again where he looked dynamic and good, and he hit a pretty big three somewhat late in the game. Obviously, it didn't work out. And tonight, make your free throws. Yeah, I think he was 8 of 20, something like that. But
8 of 20.
There were there were moments where I'm like, okay, like they're not playing great, and he needs to work on some things. But I kind of like what he's doing, and it all just turned to crap for the Warriors.
I think the B10s nailed it there. Ref 91, Warriors 90 on this one. Just while you're mentioning Kuminga on this, there's been some thought that, maybe they're showcasing him a little bit for a potential trade. I just don't know that I'm buying Draymond and the Warriors saying that like he's next. Really? Next for what? If he's next, I think the Warriors are in trouble. I think he's fine. I think he's a rotation player. He's potentially
You think he's a rotation player?
Well, I mean, throw him in as a starter, sure. I'm saying like he'd be one of your 6, 7, 8 best players, but I don't look at Jonathan Kuminga and go, oh yeah. I mean, when Steph and Draymond are done, the Warriors are in good hands. There
definitely is. When I was first trying to buy a used car, I got the used car salesman experience where like he's like, this beauty's a special one. And that's what it felt like with Trae. He's next up. Like I thought he was until you said it. Now I'm not sure. Maybe you're just gassing us up to move him on.
Absent the Rockets game from last week where Steph and Draymond sat, like that was the one game where I was like, ooh, okay, maybe I was wrong about Kuminga. Most nights I watch Kuminga and I go, he's fine.
I love Kuminga.
You do. You love him. We've escalated to love.
I'm hanging on to a feeling that's old and that Steve Kerr did everything he could to stamp out and extinguish. If Kuminga's talent was a small flame, Steve Kerr stamped on it as much as he could and pretended it wasn't there for multiple years. So at this point, I see a spark and I rekindle my hope. I liked him a lot his first 2 years. I love his size. He can do so many things. There's a talented kid in there.
He's not my kind of player. One, he scores too much. He does off-ball rotations, help defense. I want to see him crash the boards and get some chase down blocks. It's not my kind of guy. We're gonna take a break, and then on the other side, we're gonna talk about the other game from the NBA Cup tonight. Man, Trae Young and the Hawks absolutely own the Knicks. That's coming up next. This is Beyond the Arc.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. A reminder, you can get us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please download, subscribe, leave a review. And if you're watching us on YouTube, welcome. Thank you. You can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please go over there, leave some comments, hit the little bell notification so that you know when we go live. We are normally live Monday through Friday at noon Eastern. A little bit different schedule this week because we're doing post-game reaction here, and we're going to be on CBS Sports Network on Friday to preview the NBA Cup games. But normally, come find us on YouTube. All right, the other game from tonight, Bill, the Eastern Conference, the Hawks at the Knicks. The Knicks offense just ground to a halt in this one. The Hawks,
more John Gonzalez basketball, baby.
John Gonzalez, the best offense in the NBA and the second best shooting team in the NBA only scored 100 points tonight. They end up losing to the Hawks. Huge second half for the Hawks. Jalen Johnson went crazy. Trae Young went crazy. And then Bill, Trae Young, who said he doesn't like to be the villain going into this game, sure looked like he liked to be the villain. He was skipping at the end of the game, and then he was doing a little dice roll celebration on the Knicks.
I like the dice roll.
I loved it. You know who didn't like it? The Knicks and Knicks fans. Now, afterwards, Jalen Brunson was asked about it. I thought he had a great reaction. Jalen Brunson said, if we don't want him to do that, we should probably win the game. That's a professional answer.
So I just realized on our CBS Sports HQ hit, which we did just before this, I think I said earlier today on the podcast, it was last night. The basketball magic all bleeds together. But you noted yesterday that this Hawks team, who are pretty good and they have some signature wins, and obviously now they've won this game, they are mediocre. I think you said 19th or 20th in offensive rating. They are mediocre, same range in defensive rating, and yet they have the Knicks number. And I thought that beyond that, this game sort of speaks to how they just find ways to win and to win whatever they need to do, because they out-muscled and hustled a Knicks team that normally that would be a Thibodeau thing. They dominated them on the rebounds, and they almost doubled them up on the offensive rebounds. They beat them on fast break points. They beat them on points in the paint. They beat them on second chance points, sort of all the ways, because neither team shot particularly well. Again, 1980s, Orlando Magic, Houston Rockets, John Gonzalez,
slow it down,
get some popcorn and watch it on repeat. So good. It was that kind of game, but this isn't necessarily how you think of Atlanta beating the Knicks, or when, I know it's a different team, but when Atlanta made that run a few years ago to the conference finals, it was offense often and Trae Young and a bunch of shots. They out Tibbs the Tibbs team, and credit to them. They also, like the game we talked about with the Rockets, they made it ugly. They got in the mud and they dominated these guys physically.
They end up this season. It's been a weird season for them, for the Hawks. They really play to the level of their competition. They've had some Are we back? Here we go, live TV. And then
live TV.
So they're 6-1 against those teams, right? Pretty good. They've also lost. The Wizards have 3 wins. 2 of them are against the Hawks. So it's like the Hawks are kind of just like a little squirrely. But to your point about them doing like the little things that win their games, one, they've got the best bench in the NBA. They were plus 29 against the Knicks tonight, their bench versus the Knicks bench. And then the other thing, you mentioned the offensive rebounds, and I'm glad you flagged that. They had 22 offensive rebounds tonight, which is an outrageous number.
Unbelievable.
But a big chunk of those, and this is what I wanted to discuss with you, a big chunk of those came in the fourth quarter with Cat on the bench, because Cat, who was in foul trouble, got a frustration foul. He was upset that he didn't get a foul on the offensive end, and he went down to the other end and picked up his 5th foul defensively, and he had to sit. And with Cat on the bench in the fourth quarter, the Hawks absolutely dominated the offensive boards, which was a calling card for the Knicks last year. And tonight, the Hawks ended up winning this game because Cat, who was awesome all game, ended up hurting him because he did a stupid Cat thing, which is, remember last year when Anthony Edwards was like, please stop fouling? He did it again tonight and it hurt them.
There is a sort of a knucklehead nature sometimes that happens with Karl Anthony Towns. And he was the only, well, Josh Hart was pretty good, but he was, for long stretches of the game, like the Nick, at least again offensively, who was playing well. He was scoring. He was rebounding the basketball. He was blocking shots. He was getting steals. He was doing everything. And you're right. This is the sort of, and maybe some of it, and maybe I'm reaching here, John. Until last year, Cat had never really played on a basketball team where every moment mattered, where there were real expectations, where you're supposed to win these games. And this is different now. And it was different to a degree last year, but he is the second most important player after, I think, Jalen Brunson on this basketball team. And he can't afford to just check out mentally or otherwise, even in a game in December. And in a cup game, you shouldn't do it. And that's not true when you play for a bad team. When you play for a bad team year after year after year and you're talented and it comes easily, people aren't really paying attention and there aren't really consequences when you just check out for 5 or 6 minutes or you make a silly foul. This is a different reality for Karl Anthony Towns, and tonight's a reminder he needs to fix that. You're a different guy on a different team now. This
was a game where the Knicks couldn't throw it in the ocean, right? I mean, like, they're a second best shooting team in the NBA. Tonight, 41% from the floor, 29% from 3. Who was the guy who was carrying them offensively? And pretty much everywhere, it was Cat. He had 19 and 19, Bill, and 5 assists and 3 steals and 3 blocks. He was playing awesome. But the one thing that people are going to remember from this game, and by the way, he's been awesome for them all year. I mean, seamless fit offensively, and he's been much better defensively of late. That frustration foul sunk them, because when you look at some of these other guys from tonight, as you mentioned, the Hawks aren't a good defensive team. They're 19th in defense, right? But they have
they shouldn't be.
They have some good defensive pieces. Dyson Daniels absolutely locked down Jalen Brunson tonight, 5 for 15, right, from the floor for Jalen Brunson. So when you look at the other pieces on the Knicks who aren't scoring the ball well, especially Jalen Brunson, if you're Cat, you have to stay within yourself. You can't just throw up your arms and be like, I'm upset at the refs and I'm going to get a foul and now I'm going to go to the bench because you sunk your team. It was an absolute boneheaded moment. But I mean, for the Knicks, is it just one of those nights where they just had a bad shoot? They were 9 for 31 from 3. They were 0 for 13 at one point in the second half from 3. Because again, it's not so much like the Hawks being a good defensive team. They have some good defensive pieces, but like, you just throw your hands up and go, all right, we had a bad shooting night.
Maybe. I mean, it's a sample size of 1. So you cannot draw any stark takeaways, but I'll go back to something that I brought up on the podcast before, that when I was reporting at the start of the year on this trade, I had several people and one GM in particular who told me that he thought the Knicks season would be based on whether the Knicks changed Cat more or Cat changed the Knicks more. And that, that sounds sort of silly, but in this game, Karl Anthony Towns brought his Timberwolves version, as you just talked about, to this team and not the other way around. That lack of focus, throwing his hands up, the poor attitude or whatever it is. And so maybe there's a little bit of a trend in there that you just pay attention to, because if it's a one-off, it's a one-off, but Cat is not a seasoned winner. He's not. He's never had to sort of be in these situations and deliver when it matters. I know it's just an NBA Cup game, but it could mean something. Can I very quickly shout out DeAndre Hunter? Because you brought up how good the bench was and how Atlanta outscored the Knicks. I think, 24 of those points came from that dude who's always had this talent, has been on the trade block on and off, it seems like forever. And it's nice to see Quinn Snyder getting more out of some of these guys, him included. And it was nice to see him play at this level. I think he outscored every single New York Knick. And obviously he came off the bench to do that. So incredible performance from him too. Did he?
Yeah. I'm looking. So he was efficient scoring the ball. He made 4 of his 5 threes. He did outscore all the rest of the Knicks. He has been much better this season. I've been frequently critical of DeAndre Hunter. What they're asking him to do this season is just be instant offense off the bench, and he's done that. Not to typecast myself here, but we've already done it. I'm going to do a little bit more here. What else is he? I mean, I guess that's all you need him to do is score the ball. He literally did nothing else in this game. He had one other stat. He had 1 rebound. He didn't have an assist. He didn't get a steal. He didn't get a block. He did literally nothing else.
You said how many shots did he have? Because it didn't feel like many. How many shots did it take him to get his 24 points? It wasn't very many.
He was 8 of 15 and 4 of 5 from 3.
So you know what, big guy, come on in. Don't do anything else.
Literally nothing else.
It does. The Atlanta Hawks don't make sense. They shouldn't be in Vegas. Really they shouldn't be winning. They shouldn't be beating the teams that they're beating. You asked me yesterday how or why, and I go, I don't know. And I don't know anything.
This is the most I don't know team that I can remember in recent memory. Like, not on paper for the season, not good offensively, middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack. Defensively, not good defensively, lower middle of the pack. Their bench unit, DeAndre Hunter is scoring the ball, but he doesn't do much else. They've got a couple of good defensive players, but they're not a good defense. Trae Young is having an awful shooting season, but his assists
their best player, their best shooter can't shoot this season.
Can't shoot.
He can roll dice. He can roll imaginary dice, but none of it. The reality is, it's probably an absolute house of cards. Yeah, he is good, and you've said that. You're right, and he played well in this game. I think they're just a house of cards, but I don't know. Maybe they're just they shouldn't be beating the Knicks. I mean, even in a one-off game like this, they shouldn't be beating the Knicks. It's weird.
They are such a YOLO team, and Bill. Okay, so
yeah, they are.
Like, forget about like my proclivity for watching like good defense or whatever. I love watching the Hawks because you have no idea what's going to happen. Like, it could be a game like tonight where they end up beating the Knicks and you're like, I don't understand how that happened. Or they're on a 7-game winning streak or 6-game winning streak at the time. And then the Nuggets come in after losing to the Wizards and just steamroll them by 30. Like, who knows what's going to happen in Vegas? We might as well do just like a brief, because we're going to do our extended previews and predictions on CBS Sports Network on Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Everybody should join us over there. But now we know that the Final Four is set in Vegas. You're going to be there. The East semifinal is, in fact, Hawks against the Bucks. The Hawks have now won 7 of the last 8. Bucks have won 8 of the last 10. They just beat the Magic on a poor shooting night. I would lean Bucks, but who knows with the Hawks?
Yeah, and this is the other. I'm trying to look up their net rating. Their net rating, they're 19th. They have a negative. I mean, they're just such a bizarre. So this is the thing.
Negative point differential too. I don't get it.
But and you said this. They've won. This is not the only big game they've won. They've won a lot of big games against a lot of good teams. And I threw this stat at you on HQ a little bit ago, and I think it's interesting. I believe that we're at the Bucks now, having won 11 of 14, and that's a great run.
It is,
but only 3 of the teams that they played were over 500 at the time that they played them. If you want to be a stickler and be more positive and glass half full, you can make it 4 because they played the Heat, and the Heat are now over 500. And they lost those games. They lost to Atlanta, they lost to Boston, and they lost to somebody else that I'm blanking on. My point is, you can't blame Milwaukee for beating the teams that are in front of them. You played the teams that are in front of you. That's part of the deal. But Milwaukee has only overperformed lately against bad teams. And for some reason, Atlanta has beaten good teams.
Yeah.
And it's hard to assess if Milwaukee's that good. I don't know how they're going to be against good teams. And I don't know if Atlanta is a good team, but it's an interesting, I think Atlanta can win the game.
Yeah, they absolutely can. I mean, both of us had the Knicks in this one, and then here come the Hawks being like, well, nobody knows what we are. And at the very least, I think it'll be fun. It'll be entertaining. I would have preferred, and I think the NBA certainly would have preferred, if the Knicks had made it, because that's a major marquee matchup with obviously a major marquee market. But the way the Hawks are playing and like the way that Trae Young leans into being the villain, and you do have Giannis, it should be a fun game. I'm still going to
so positive.
That game.
I don't want the Hawks or Houston there. I mean, Houston will be fun, but I mean, the Warriors or the Knicks would have been,
Warriors and the Knicks would have been better.
Sexy.
It would have been better. You've
offense.
So you went from, so as I'm looking at this, you went from, okay, you have the Knicks, big market. You've got the Warriors, multi-time champions, Steph Curry, big allure, right? Now, all of a sudden, your markets for this are like a little bit cringy if you're the NBA. Yeah. You do have Giannis as a star. You do have SGA as a star. But your markets for this are Milwaukee and Atlanta and Oklahoma City, and Houston's a big city, but not exactly a basketball town. And as you have pointed out several times, the way they play is kind of like better Orlando Magic.
And the other thing is, last year's NBA Cup games felt significant because the Lakers were in them, and Vegas is a commuter city of a sort for LA. And if the Warriors make it, it's a real. Yeah, I have buddies who want to fly to Vegas from LA this weekend for the NBA Cup games because I'm there, and I've had to explain I can't go out with you. I'm going to be.
Yeah, I'm working.
And a couple are like, we're coming anyway, because they're not going because the NBA Cup, but then when they realize. So if the Warriors advance, and I don't know, but there's a better chance that a bunch of Warriors fans get on airplanes from the Bay and come over and do a weekend and maybe and see what happens. I don't know. Are Atlanta and Milwaukee fans getting on the plane and Houston fans to come to Vegas? Maybe, but I'll be really curious how it feels this year compared to last year when it was Lakers fans everywhere.
Well, you're going to be there, and we're going to need reports from you on that because I'm curious about that too. I mean, Rockets, despite the fact that they're way ahead of the curve and they have some really young, interesting pieces, and I think they're fun. Maybe some other people don't. But you look at their home games, and it's not like they're packed and the crowd is raucous, right? Like
and the Hawks.
Yeah,
I mean, that is not a. I got a bunch of buddies from Atlanta, but guys, you're not very. You're
no. I mean,
doesn't do a very good job.
No, it's not. It's not a fan base that really shows up. I mean, when the Knicks played in Atlanta and the Hawks won that game, Trae Young got on the microphone and was telling the Knicks fans in Atlanta to go home and have a fun drive, and it's like, oh, wow, that's a little bit rough. But there he is. He's going to do a little court thing. He'll make it fun. Hopefully the people will show up. I'm sure that the gamblers will show up in Vegas. I'm going to take the Bucks in that one. Who do you got in that one?
You know what? We've gotten all these wrong. I think we've got terrible. I want to go Atlanta. And I have absolutely no reason for that. I have no analysis. I have no idea if the Bucks are good or not. I don't know if the Bucks or Atlanta are good or garbage. I'm not sure what either of those teams are. But I'm gonna go Atlanta because there's just something about the way they found to win some of these games. And Milwaukee is not. I don't think it's formidable as some of the other teams that the Hawks have beat this year.
I'm glad you did that for the show purposes because now we're guaranteed that
we got one
right. So we didn't put the show kibosh on this one. So nicely done, very smart by you.
Thank you.
And the other one, we've got the 2-seed Rockets against the 1-seed Oklahoma City Thunder. Recently, the Rockets beat the Thunder. It's the number 1 versus number 2 defenses in the NBA. That previously redounded to the Rockets pulling one off against Oklahoma City. I think that this is a little bit tougher task this time around, though, because Hartenstein has been plugged in. SGA looks amazing. We saw what happened when they throttled the Mavs last night, and they're the last team left in the Cup, Bill, that has both a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense. This is just, it looks like this is going to be a really high mountain for the Rockets to climb on paper.
Which means I'm taking the Thunder, and I'm sure you will too, which means the Rockets will win whatever. Perfect John Gonzalez.
It's going to be Hawks, 60, Rockets, and
69, 67. They'll all shoot 14% from 3 or something. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, this, and we'll talk about this a lot, and we already have, but not only are Oklahoma City on paper a top 5 offense and defense, just watching them play lately, they like each other. They're an incredible rhythm. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They have so much confidence and swagger. They play the way you might expect Boston as defending champions to play. They walk onto the court, and they just look like they think they're going to kick the living out of everybody they play. And I think that they are competitive enough and they're interested enough in dominating the NBA that they're going to remember that loss to the Rockets, even though it's one game in an 82-game season. It doesn't really mean anything. I would be afraid to play the Thunder if I were any other team.
Yeah,
which means we just cursed them. But I think the Thunder are head and shoulders better than this team, and that's the clear team you have to pick.
The ball movement with that team is really good. Everybody jacking up threes. They shot 53s against the Mavs, and then Hartenstein coming in and addressing the one problem that they had, which is they've been a terrible rebounding team without him. And then he comes in, and all of a sudden they've become a much better, or at least improved rebounding team. And like then, you've got guys who can switch 1 through 5, like 6, 7 of those.
Yeah, I was going to say 6 or 7 deep, and there's no Chet yet. This is all true. And Chet's watching in street clothes for the moment.
Yeah. I'm really, really looking forward to that game. Should be a fun one, but yes, I'm taking Oklahoma City too. They've won 4 in a row and 8 of 10. They've got the best record, or they're the best team in the NBA. They've got the best point differential in the NBA. I think we probably did just jinx them, but it'll be fun. It'll be a fun game for you to watch when you're in. When are you leaving for Vegas?
I leave tomorrow. So because I don't know if my bosses know this, I booked the wrong air. I forgot we have a show. We have a live show on CBS Sports Network on Friday. I did a shoot kind of thing. So I'm crashing at my brother plays semi-professional poker. He's there.
He's good.
He is good. So he's there all the time. He's got a VRBO. So I'm rolling in tomorrow so you and I can do our live show on Friday that I had forgotten about. Very responsible.
We appreciate Chris subscribing to the show on his phone there, and also throwing out Oklahoma City versus the Hawks. Chris joining the show jinx and jinxing the Thunder. I'm excited for you to go to Vegas. You're going to give us reports on Friday about the vibes and what's happening and all that stuff. And as you mentioned, we're going to be live on CBS Sports Network on Friday to preview those games. And also a whole bunch of players on Sunday, Bill, become trade eligible. So we're going to go through the players who are trade eligible, the Jimmy Butler rumors, Jimmy Butler's agent clapping back at Shams Charania. That was fun. So all that stuff is going to happen on CBS Sports Network. Come and join us for that. We'll turn it into a podcast afterwards, but if you want to watch the live version, we'll be live on CBS Sports Network at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on Friday. So come and hit that with us. But I think that's going to do it for us for now. Safe travels to you, Bill.
Thank you, buddy.
Have a good time. Put something on black for me while you're there. I'll send you the money. I'll Venmo you.
You got it. You want it? All right. How much? You're a big spender.
We'll figure it out. Put some of that money from the bet for the dinner on that. We'll throw that on there.
I don't know what you speak.
All right. For now, for our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, who is off to Las Vegas, I am John Gonzalez. We thank all of you for tuning in, and we will see you on Friday.